so nice to see you in such a large number. I am Maja. I'm a software tester here at Infinum, where I've been working for the past year and a half. And if you've read my introduction in the event page, you know that I like to question everything. So today I'd like to question nothing less but our everyday activity, which is writing test cases. So let's delve into my presentation. This is going to be the context of my presentation. First of all, I'm going to explain the dynamic between speed and quality is now in nowadays market. After that, I'm going to move on to test cases and put them into the context of Agile methodology. Next, I'm going to question the dominance of test cases with reference to the article test cases are not testing. And at the end, I'm going to try to give you some conclusion. Okay, so one of the most observable traits that we have seen in the past few decades when it comes to industries is definitely speed. So we have fast industries, fast food, fast fashion, fast content, and maybe we are even moving towards to fast education. So if you know what this is project management triangle or constraints, which means that in order to maintain quality, you should have balance between time, cost, and usually there's scope here in between instead of quality. So if we maximize one of those things, we need to compromise the other one. So when we think back of those fast industries that I've mentioned, what are we compromising? It seems that quality is something that is certainly compromised. So is this something that we need to expect in the market that wants to have everything delivered very fast? Fortunately not, because our modern consumers do not accept compromising quality and do not accept compromising speed to market or time to market. So these are most important traits of our modern consumers. They have low tolerance for errors and they will not wait for items they want. Okay, so organizations had to come up with an idea how to meet the demands of consumers and of the market, and the answer was agile transformation. So one of the greatest benefits of an agile framework is improved product quality, which basically means that they are giving a high value and they are giving it faster. So these are agile core values. We have individuals and interaction over processes and tools. We have working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan. To simplify, it means that work is divided into chunks in order to respond to change in a fast manner, but to deliver top-notch quality at the same time. So what I want to question right now here regarding test cases is how exactly do they fit into the Agile methodology? Because when you come to think of them, so this is one example of test cases, which are practically steps or set of steps or instructions that testers do and write in order to test a functionality. They also, as you can see, they follow some rigid rules like this. Test cases should be independent of each other. One test should have one meaningful check. They should be atomic. There should not be any further sub-steps. Like you cannot put, one step cannot contain press this button and press next. So these are some pretty rigid rules, which means that test cases are in fact detailed and comprehensive documentation. How come they as such fit into the Agile methodology? Well, when I was doing my research, the most common answer I got is because they are the backbone of software quality. They are the proof. They're all the reminder what to test and the proof that something has been tested. But, okay, let's see. These are their characteristics from what I've told you so far. They are detailed, procedural, documented, and they restrict thinking. There's just one question I do have. I don't know if you felt like that, but when you are following, let's say for example, during regression testing, you're following steps step by step, do you sometimes feel like you are like those steps are sort of shackles for your curiosity, for your creativity. There's only one path that you can follow. You don't have time to actually explore the app yourselves. And then the question comes, how can something that decreases my creativity be the guarantee of quality? And the answer, what I found also, the other school of thought that was challenging the dominance and the idea of the importance of test cases was this article, Test Cases Are Not Testing, Towards a Culture of Test Performance, written by James Bach and Aaron Hodder. So the article challenges the importance of test cases and gives a criticism of the test cases culture and the factory school of testing thought. So what exactly is test cases culture? It's the culture that is characterized with obsession with test cases, where test cases are equated to testing, which means that just writing test cases becomes a skill rather than doing the actual testing, and performing a testing becomes like a mechanical or clerical task that even novices can do. And then in this culture, tests become like a commodity, which means that the more the better. Then tester is merely the medium for test cases. And why are they relating or comparing that to a factory? Because in factory processes are usually, there is only one way that is the right way. And then the participants don't really matter. They're expendable, they're fungible. And then we are actually left with cartoonishly simplistic understanding of test design, or the test cases, the example of the test case that I have written, that you have seen. Like, I mean, let's be honest, if we are writing test cases so detailed for new testers, we can assume that they will not be fools. They will understand what is the next step, even if we put two actions in one step, or even if we don't put every step so detailed. So what is the optimal thing to do? Should we just completely disregard test cases? Well, I mean, not really, but let's just think of testing itself for a moment. If test cases are not equated to testing, what is testing? Testing is a performance. So it depends on the credibility of the performer. We should rather explore and use the individuality of the performer rather than just disregard it. Testing is also exploring the relationship between the product and values about the product. That is self-explanatory. And testing is making social judgments. This is very important because this idea of testing as making social judgments gives back this human touch to testing, because honestly, we as manual testers, we don't need to automate ourselves. We have testing automation engineers to do that. Okay, so after that, I was also doing some research and find that there were exactly research about exploratory testing versus scripted testing, and none of those researches suggest that one is better than the other. So in that context, I have to ask you one question that was also mentioned in the article. If no research has ever actually resulted in scripted testing being better than exploratory testing, why do we use it so much? Do we use it because test cases are really the base of software quality, or they're just simply a metric of our job and our performance? Because exploratory testing cannot be measured that easily, and scripted testing, well, it can, as many test cases as you write. So yeah, these are the results of the researches that I've seen, that exploratory testing is equally effective, and that both scripted and exploratory testing provide strengths and weaknesses. Optimal thing to do here would be to perform some sort of hybrid form of testing. And this hybrid form actually would combine both of them because they do complement each other. Here you can see exploratory testing has less of a structure and the specified processes, while scripted testing has standardized documentation. In exploratory testing, tester has more personal freedom, while in scripted testing, there's no deviation from script. Exploratory testing requires in-depth domain knowledge, which can also be pro and a con. And scripted testing, the tester can overcome the lack of domain knowledge during actually going through the test cases themselves. Exploratory testing mirrors user experience, while scripted testing focuses on limited areas constrained by the script. Exploratory testing finds defects faster, especially UI bugs. And in scripted, fewer bugs are found, but more of the app is covered with tests. So, what is sort of a conclusion here? Let's say the conclusion would be to actually, as I told you at the beginning, question why we do something. I like this idea of context-driven testing because, as it says here, it promotes this humanist, performance-oriented vision of testing. They're not against any practice, they're not against writing test cases, they're just questioning the importance of so rigidly following some rules about writing test cases, and they're against methodological chauvinism. How to actually go towards this performance culture? So these are a few tips that I found, but there are more of them. First idea is to change the testing concept from factory to performance that is performed by skilled people. When it comes to recruitment, we should hire testers who are curious, who enjoy learning about technology, who are not afraid of confusion, who are not afraid to destroy something. We should have diverse testers when it comes to talents, temperaments, in order to maximize their performance in test teams. And when it comes to documentation, of course, we should not disregard it completely, but we should prefer concise documentation. We should do lists, mind maps, and what's very important, develop a discipline of personal note-taking. So with this said, I would like to conclude my presentation, and I'd like to hear your experiences because this is just my experience in the project that I've been working on. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you, Maja. I just realized that I forgot to explain to you that we are recording this for later. That's why we're speaking English. So if you have any questions, and I'm sure you do, I will pass you along this simply so we can have it recorded. So, any questions?
Or a comment maybe. Do you have time to do both, like both scripted and exploratory testing? Because I sometimes feel like I don't. I feel like I mostly do scripted testing. So yeah, maybe you have different experiences, and I'd like to hear about them. Maybe you can change my mind when it comes to scripted testing as well.
Anyone?
Or a question. Well, I'm glad that you understood everything and that everyone agrees with me.
Sure.
Yeah, exploratory testing is bad for me when I won't have time to do it. So, sorry my voice.
Yeah, I agree. That should be the case. But when I feel like I should be doing exploratory testing, I am writing test cases based on the requirements that are changing. So sometimes I do not have time to do this completely exploratory testing, which is like me totally curiosity going through the app. But yeah, that should be the time, right? I agree with you.
Yeah, I have a comment slash maybe question. From my experience, I found that the reason why scripted tests are preferred over exploratory testing, that it's much easier to show some metrics and show like results to like middle management and above. because in the end with exploratory you don't have like documented steps. Okay, you can take notes and stuff, but it's not gonna be so organized and like structured, which is a difficulty and also a problem because they're expecting that kind of reports.
Yeah, but that's very controversial, right?
Yeah, but in the end, exploratory has much more value to customers because you actually like behave as a customer, explore their maybe pains and find maybe issues in the flow or in the design, not just technical issues, which scripted test might not catch. So it's very difficult question. I'm wondering if you have any maybe idea of how this could be changed maybe in the future.
Rebellion? No, I don't. This is why I was questioning this. I thought that maybe we can all come up with some idea. But it's good to actually be aware of the fact that even though everyone wants us to do scripted testing, that's not the pillar of quality. And we should maybe invest more time into this exploratory testing and maybe, I don't know, find a way how to measure that, even if it's hard, but if we could find that to be somehow measured, maybe we can invest more time into doing it. Well, if that's it, thank you for listening.
Wait.
Oh, sorry.
It's not it. I was waiting actually for somebody else to pick up, but if there's none, I would just like to share my experience so far. And from my experience so far, it seems to me that the companies or the clients that are really trying to push for more scripted testing instead of exploratory testing are often hardware companies for which we are building software that will either connect to their hardware or it will connect with something that runs their hardware. It seems to me like, okay, in hardware development, you really have to have, just like you said, it's a factory. You have to have really strict standards and you have to be very quality oriented, because once you produce 100,000 pieces of something and ship it out, you don't have time to increment it every 2 weeks with a new update, hardware wise, while developing software often do have that option. And it seems to me that those two views, those two ideologies are often clashing.
I get what you mean, and this is why I like this context-driven approach, because when it comes to testing hardware, especially Internet of Things, maybe it's a good idea to have everything scripted because it's not that intuitive for new testers to see. So I'm not completely disregarding the idea of scripted testing, sometimes even being better, but I just don't like the idea, or not don't like, I just question the idea of the dominance of one approach over the other. But in what you are saying here, when it comes to this hardware testing, yeah, it makes sense actually to invest more time into scripted or detailed and well-documented testing. I completely agree.
So how does automation fit in all this? You were saying that this is basically for manual testing, right?
Yeah.
So like you're saying that we should have both types of tests. Why not automate the scripted tests and do exploratory manual?
I agree. Yeah, we should do that. But we are still. So the question is, when I was doing some research, when I was doing a survey about what would people like to hear when it comes to test cases, one of the questions was whether we should, as manual testers, write test cases with automation in mind. Because when you begin to work on a project, you don't know how long it's going to take for something to be automated. And the ideal, the optimal actually result would be that we could automate those repetitive tasks. But we manual testers still write test cases for tasks that could be automated one day. And this is something that I am sort of, let's say, opposing to, because I don't think that we should automate ourselves, because I like the idea of us giving this human touch to the testing itself. So yeah, it would be great if we could automate all the repetitive tasks, and that would give us plenty of time to do the exploratory testing. But we don't know how much time will it take for automation to actually cover those, let's say, cases that go into every regression.
Got it.
Okay. Thanks, Philip. So from my side, just a follow-up to Nico's comment and to your discussion about how would we change that approach from shifting from scripted testing to exploratory testing. I think that it would be fairly easy to change that on a project level, because you would come to a meeting, talk to a project team, explain why you want to shift from scripted testing to exploratory testing. But where the toughest part is, and where the problem actually is like Nico said, there's mostly management involved, different stakeholders and clients, which actually want written documentation, various metrics to see why they pay us, for example, agencies, to make a product. So if we would have to explain them why we want to shift to exploratory testing, I think that they wouldn't be so into it like we are now.
Yeah, well, unfortunately that is true, and I would like to ask them a question: how does that document fit into Agile methodology?
Yeah, but as you said, Agile, I think that a lot of, especially well-established companies, really do have hard time to switching to Agile way of working. And what I mostly see is that they just erase their old roles, paste some new roles that they read in Agile manifesto or something like that, and they just call it like, okay, we become Agile, we are now working in a Scrum or some other methodology. So it's quite interesting actually to see that shift, and how fast or how slow it is.
Yeah, I agree. I still haven't worked in a project that is complying completely to the Agile transformation and actually to Agile core values. So it would be interesting to see when it happens.
And just to add to that, I mean, Agile is fine until there's a deadline involved, right? And then
it's perfect.
Yeah, then it all breaks down. So I think Agile, it's been like misused and abused a lot in the last and recent years. The ideal application for Agile, in my mind, are like product companies, like startups and bootstrapped basically projects that don't rely on an external client or a stakeholder who doesn't dictate them, who are finding the market and iterating basically to see what best fits their user base and their business plan. Once you have like multiple clients, they all want some information when they can expect something. Okay, in Agile that also works. You have roadmaps, you have iterations, but they want a date. They want like a concrete, and that's where it's very difficult to integrate your working the Agile way versus like a waterfall approach from the client. So in my mind, the only way Agile can work in an IT company if the whole company is Agile. Like sales cannot make a deal with like delivery dates set in advance, like hardcore delivery dates and stuff like that. They also need to work Agile. They need to like promise a baseline and then iterate over that. The hard part is finding clients who would agree to that.
Yeah.
But that's why Agile is so difficult. And like I've been working like 5 or 6 companies now and never seen Agile implemented according to the manifesto. It's always some Frankenstein. So.
Great.
Thank you very much for your comment. If nothing, at least I hope that I sparked an interest in your reasoning, and thank you very much.
Okay.